Hey everyone, it's Coach Stefan Rudolph coming to you straight from Reno, Nevada, out here on a beautifully cold day, crisp day, visiting my parents up here, coming up to see the family on my birthday today, and just going over life in general. Every year goes by faster and faster, and with my program at Recovered Coaching, it's kind of like I have a new friend in my life, Mitch, that has really helped me kind of reset my mind, reset my life. We all want to work together and grow together, and wanted to come up with some topics today that Mitch and I are going to discuss again with epilepsy. In Recovered Coaching, I work with epileptics, recovery as well, alcohol, drugs. You can check out the website recoveredcoaching.com, and really just to have topics that are based on a positive mindset and positive growth and overcoming obstacles in life, and looking at the valleys and the hills as obstacles, and being able to get through them and over them in life and grow from them. So that's why I have Mitch here. Mitch, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going, brother? Nice to see you.
Yeah,
Looks
great
like
to see you again.
looks like snow out there.
I know. I'm going to jump in my car, by the way. When we start recording this, it's a little cold. San Diego cold is about 45, 50, and here it's in the low 30s at night, 20s even. So I'm going to jump in my car. But yeah, Mitch, catch us up on who you are in your program and what you're doing for epilepsy and other things.
Yeah, there's actually a lot going on right now. We've been connecting with multiple mentors and different coaches, such as yourself. One of them is Mark DeFee. He's a licensed counselor, and he has just recently connected me with about 4 or 5 other mentors that are already in this field. And none of us really knew that each other were there. And so right now I'm kind of taking it upon myself to link everyone together and just start to make all of us aware that this is needed. Another layer of support inside of, I mean, not just for epileptics, but, we were recently talking to a vet and how much support and everything they actually need. And from autism to, I mean, the whole spectrum of mental illness to people trying to recover and the rest of it. There just needs to be another layer of support. And since I have epilepsy and we're just starting with epilepsy, and creating that support from within to show that epileptics have something to give as well. And we have something that we can show each other and teach each other and use that kind of student master mentality to link each other in and be able to create a more sound environment for all of us. So if you're newly diagnosed, or if if you've been previously diagnosed and keep hitting these walls, you can go on. What we're doing right now is we want to create one solid landing page. So someone can go and search, and there's all the counselors, um, mentors, the people who are nonprofit, as well as people that are getting on the side of the epileptic entrepreneurship side. A lot of us can't do normal jobs day to day. And so the entrepreneurship and things like that, and to share that knowledge, I think is going to be super important for all of us to create lives for ourselves instead of having to rely on other things and other businesses to maybe accept us into theirs. I think we just need to start building from the inside. And so We Have the Storm is basically that. We want to create for epileptics by epileptics. And I think that layer of understanding and knowing what you go through day to day, it's really frustrating trying to explain to a doctor what's happening, and they only know, the textbook part. They don't know what it feels like. They don't know, what it's like to have to recover from seemingly, almost death on a level that we experience. But each other knows,
Yeah,
and
every time, huh?
yeah, from the inside, like we all know that feeling. And so just sharing that alone, let alone actually giving tools and techniques and all the rest of it, but just having someone to understand that with is, I think, huge and is really needed, especially since we have, 65 million of us. It's nuts. And the numbers that big is going to need the numbers from the inside. A lot of different mentors and stuff it seems like kind of a daunting mission, but if you really look at the ability instead of the illness of what epilepsy gives to us and the understandings that it, we, like, for instance, like, we can't waste life in a sense. At least that's how I feel. Like, I don't know when is going to be my last day or my last seizure. So every time I come out of one, I think that's like the pivotal kind of moment of where you have influence. We can't really control or utilize as much of the energy when it comes in. I mean, sometimes it comes in and it's just there. And you have to either survive through it or, get wrecked by it, or there's just so many different types of it and how the energy moves that, um, that is so, it can be so dynamic on how you handle that. But coming out of one, I think we all feel really similar ways when we come out. You're just drained, you're upset, when I first started to come out of one, I thought it was like something I did. So I just felt like it was my fault, even though I didn't really have control over it. And so there's just this extra hammering on ourselves that happens when we come out. And instead, we can pivot and switch that energy to where, it seems like when you're in the depths of it, it seems pretty hard to be grateful coming out of one. That seems like it would be the furthest thought from my mind. But it's the most powerful sense of, and it's true. When I come back, I get to come back. Like, it's that death you recover from. You don't have to leave permanently. And I look at things, I touch things, and I look at the sky, and I just like chill on myself. And I don't go straight into the mind and say, oh, what about this and this and this? I just appreciate being back in the body and being able to, be here for a little bit longer or however much longer. And so it's that big gap, switching it from being just, you're even more down when you come out. And it's tough too, because sometimes when you're that down and you come out, that starts the energy for another one and another one. And then you get on
Yeah.
this roll, and it's just exhausting by the time you're at the end of that. And so
Well,
how
it's almost
to,
like an addiction, like that. And to explain to people further that don't have epilepsy, that's a great point, because you have a seizure and then you're so down and depressed and you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to have another seizure. A lot of the times I talk myself into it by saying, did I take my medication today? And I would get all stressed and I wouldn't
Mhm.
remember if I took it this morning. And then I'd have a seizure. I'd have a major small mole. I'd be like out of it and people would be looking at me all weird. But we
Yeah,
talk ourselves into it sometimes by the stress. And especially your point is well taken, that when you come out of it, oh my God, I don't want this to happen again. And there's no gratitude, it's fear more, right?
yeah, yeah. And it's tough because you have to step back from your own mind and learn how to look at it. Because there can be that huge judgment game when you come out of like, oh, I shouldn't even be thinking this way. You can be hard on yourself just for noticing that you're being stressed, and it adds more stress on top of it. So you have to be really, really calm and easy with your mind, because then it doesn't stack things up. It flows into stuff a little bit more. And you just let yourself, like, I'm the number one tool that I use. Um, and for everyone listening and stuff, I don't take medication for my epilepsy. Haven't for about 6 years now. It's been a personal choice of mine. I don't promote that to anyone else. This is just my personal thing and how I deal with it. My seizures frequencies are actually becoming less, and I'm learning other different ways to handle it. Um, but no, regardless of medication or not, just that frequency that it's like whatever frequency that you're promoting, whatever frequency that your influence is going into, that's what you're going to get pretty much. And so, yeah, if you put that energy into fear and stress and all that other stuff, that's where it's going to go. And there's nothing that's there to feel bad for you for it. This is just raw energy that you're dealing with. The epilepsy doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have, it doesn't notice if it's a proper time or not. It just goes. And so you have to train your mind to be able to go with it, but to create those certain stipulations to say, hey, I'm not going to accept all of this fear, all of this doubt, all of this, seemingly thing that says I'm broken and I don't belong here. And then it creates that extra depression and all the rest of it. And instead of saying, I'm back, I'm grateful for being here, I get to be on earth another day, I get to be with the people I love, I get to express myself in whatever way I wish, because you don't know when you're going to go again. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Everyone runs around thinking everything they want. It doesn't bother, it's not your business in that sense of what people think about you. It's more so your business on how the energy is moving through yourself and how you feel about yourself on a daily, because that's what's really going to be there throughout your time. And yeah, it's just like in an addiction. Sometimes we don't know how to be in that powerful mode. We don't know how to be in that joyous state, even though terrible things are happening. We're so used to being depressed instead. And so we just rely on going back into that depression, because it's much easier to think that, oh, I don't have a choice, I have to be this way. But it's not true. You get to be the way you want. And that's more terrifying because, it's up to us. And what if we fail? What if we do this or that? And it's like, well, the good news is that you're going to fail a lot. But even that is the most useful thing that you can use, because that's where all your lessons are. All that failure is where all the juice is. When you succeed, it just means you move to the next thing. But when you fail, there's so much that comes with it that is even more useful. And so, it's that big kind of thing that all motivation speakers and stuff use, is like that failing forward. But it's true. You need failure to move forward. It's not moving backwards at all. Moving backwards is not doing anything, just staying there, doing the same thing over and over. That's getting rolled back by the tide. But
that's the insanity, right? That same thing over and over, expecting different results, and we keep doing it without knowing it. And you have a great point. Awaken the spirit within, and you got to be able to listen. So our mind is running things routinely, saying, "There's another seizure. You're going to have another one tomorrow. You're going to have another one tomorrow." It never gets out of that rut, and we're stuck in it, right?
Right, and it's using. And it's, a lot of people get caught up on like, what is the spirit? What is all this stuff? And it's like, we can't totally know that because we're still in a human mind. But the more of the point is to be able to utilize it. So if I notice that I can see myself as being separate, it's really helpful on how to deliver the things to myself that I'm actually going to need. So if let's say I'm really in it, I'm so focused on something, I don't even notice, I didn't even eat that day, I didn't even hardly sleep. And, I'm having seizure frequencies come. I'm like, why is this happening? But if you're just a little bit more mindful of knowing when to do the things that, your whole body is telling you, if like, I need to sleep, like I know it's not probably going to be the most useful daily if I sleep for 12 hours, but it's going to be useful for me, for my body, if I sleep that long. And I'm going to perform way better when I'm actually up and moving around. Or it's just being aware of yourself as a separate person in that sense, but still being you. And everyone has that ability within their mind. It's really useful, because then when you're in that, like just muck, like when you come out of that seizure and you just feel terrible, and like most of the time my tongue is slashed up, like your body's sore, just feels like you got jumped, and you're not, like, of course you're not going to be in the great mindset, but that extra thing that can see you and that can be able to have influence on you can start to help right away, of just like that mindset that you can bring in that kind of gives you that support from within. I don't really get support from, like I do, like obviously from friends and family and all the rest of this, but the most like actual useful support that I get is from internally, the things I tell myself, because somebody can tell you something all day long, and if you deflect it, it's not going to help you. You're not even going to hear it. But if you're the one that's starting to say those things, and I think that's like the main tool, is realizing that, yes, you are that student, you're new and you're learning and you're here, and there's a lot of things we don't know, but there's also a master inside of you that one that knows, the one that is there, the one that is commanding in that such nurturing way, to where it steps forward to not just protect yourself, but to be there for yourself in every kind of manner. You know, it's the difference between just running and breathing and then paying attention to your breath when you're running, or, you know, even through, I mean, the number one tool that I always use is the breath. Through partial seizures, through coming out, like the way you breathe is the way that your body dictates your energy. And just knowing that you're are just a vessel that holds so much energy that moves through it. We have so much water and electrics inside of us. And the epileptic community is really aware of that because of what happens. And
Yeah,
so,
you have to go from like surviving to thriving, like we talk about, right?
exactly.
Survive, barely get by. It's really hard with the epilepsy, it is. But then to take note of it, learn from it, and say, hey, I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't drink this, or, you know, I should get more sleep. And just being thankful that you had a seizure, which sounds crazy to a lot of people.
Yeah.
But as we interact with more and more people, there's other people like that realize that we are our number one doctor within, you know, the person in us has to come out and prescribe us positivity, you know, and thankfulness and gratitude from surviving to thriving, right?
Yeah, exactly. And being able to admit the truth to yourself. That's the hardest part, you know, like the acceptance. Like, I'm going to fight myself every single time I come out of a seizure if I don't even accept that I have epilepsy. And that tool alone, like, you know, next to breath, is the acceptance of it. To say, yes, I do have this. And not in a way of like, in that victim mindset of like, oh, yes, epilepsy has me. It's like, no, do it through your master self. Own it. You know, like, damn straight I have epilepsy. I use it every single day. I chose very hard mode on life. And the energy you get from that is way different. And the way people see you, they don't see you as this hurt, you know, like, oh, I feel sorry for you, which doesn't really help us at all. Like, you know, if people feel sorry for us, does not give us that energy and that juice that we need. But people saying,
I hate. I don't say I hate it, but when people say, "I'm sorry to hear that,"
yeah,
it's like, well, I'm over it.
yeah, yeah, totally. And it's like if you were to, you know, if you were a huge sports athlete, you know, you went and you did your thing, and even if you, whether you won or lost, if someone comes up and says, "Oh, I'm sorry you had to go through that," and you're like, "What are you talking about?" I was trying to go through that my whole life, you know, like that's, and it's seems, yeah, like you said, it seems insane because it's a terrifying experience. But I think one of the reasons why it's terrifying is that we were taught that it's terrifying from the get-go. We were taught that it was a bad thing, that you were gonna, oh, you're gonna have to deal with this the rest of your life. You know, just the language that they put with it of like, this is a real bad thing. And I had to burn that out of myself. You know, I just had to burn all the stuff that anyone ever told me about it, and then go and learn it in the way that I wanted to learn it. Because if I have to deal with it my whole life, I might as well develop a better relationship with just me and the energy itself, instead of trying to find information outside that never seems to help me anyway. Um, and it was always the most useful, you know, after those seizures. You know, you come out of one, and my mind was just clear in a sense. And there is this option of, do you want to load it with all of this stress and all of this stuff that you were dealing with before, or do you want to use this as a tool to say, all that stuff before, it was like the universe filled me up, put me in a shaker, shook the shit out of it, and just poured it out. You know, and it's like, okay, what if I just used this as almost like my soul's washing machine? And that's how I kind of started to first think about it. So every time I came out of one, I was like, well, I'm clean. You know, all that stuff was gone. And then it started to make this idea of like, what if I did the, you know, what if I would do something like that, that would get the energy out of me before a seizure had to build up and accumulate? And so I started researching different types of meditations, fire breath, stuff that really got this stuff going and moving. And I'm like, maybe I could almost mimic it, to where, what if it's just a buildup of a lot of energy and it needs to release? I'm like, what if I'm actually doing the opposite, to where with epilepsy, and like I said, there's so many different variants to kinds. I can only speak for myself with temporal lobe partial seizures that evolve into grand mals. But I think even with all of us, there's this fear of like, oh, I can't go out there. I can't be or do anything on a daily because of this. I may seize and fall into the water. I might like get hurt. And it's like, yeah, be mindful of where you're going and who you're going with, and make sure that like you're ready, but don't shut yourself off, because sometimes that's what you need to get your energy moving, so you don't have seizures in the first place. If you keep yourself inside, if you keep all that negative stuff and it's just like planting yourself and you're just giving yourself the same stuff over and over again, that is not going to help. Even if it's going in your backyard and not like going, out, just getting and moving energy somehow else, making some sort of a change in your life, even if it's very small. I'm much more of a drastic type person. So when I make changes in my life, I go to the other side of the world. But I just want to do the big movements, because I love it. It's just how I am. But I love to deduce larger, more technical problems so other people don't have to. So they don't have to go and do some of the things that I've done, because not all the things I've done have been smart. But I've learned a lot from them, and it's from those failures that where I am now, to where, yeah, epilepsy, it's a friend instead of this monster. It's a relationship. I figured if something that powerful can go through my body, I should be friends with it. I shouldn't be enemies with it, because it's going to be a terrible enemy to have. The thing just
What you
shreds
resist
through me.
persists.
Yeah,
Wayne
exactly.
Dyer, what you resist persists, and it keeps persisting. That's why we come here in this community, and also like helping others that have epilepsy. But two, I think this is spreading more to the families, the people that have to deal with it. They've never had epilepsy, but they're family members that
Right.
are very loving and caring. But we also know those epileptics that deal with family members that are upset that they have seizures, jealous,
Mhm.
angry. These crazy, crazy stories we hear about a lady that has seizures, but her sister hates her because she's having seizures. She's getting attention, she thinks. And they even think they do it on purpose. I mean, sometimes that's what causes a lot of depression in epileptics is it's not a normal life, but we have to, help them. And also they have to help themselves, right? Focus on working with it.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that my mom she was experienced with epilepsy since my brother, and me and my brother happen to have it. It's not really genetic. It's just, and we have like two way different kinds. His is more in the back of the brain, and he shuts down instantly. I get a little show before I go out. So I'm grateful enough to where she lets us explore and deal with it on our own. She's always there to support. Like, I'm always super grateful for that. On my dad's end and everything is it's different. It's just unknown, so it's just unknown territory. And so they like kind of don't really want to talk about it, don't know how to, and all this stuff. And I've kind of over the years, one thing I've tried to change for my life personally, I've saw a lot of positive stuff help, is like I tried to change my language with epilepsy. So now when I first meet someone, it's one of the first things I'll talk about, but in a way that like hits it differently. And I found that when you can make connections to something, like if somebody has an experience and it can be kind of like epilepsy, even if it's not all the way, because epilepsy is times 1,000 of most experiences that I've like connected to, but like you can still connect to them and say, yeah, it's kind of like that. And when they have that opening in their mind, then the understanding can be a little bit more level, and just like getting them to understand that this is something that even we have to learn each day. It's not like, oh, I just have something and this is my life. It's like, it changes all the time. It's different kind of all the time. And it's almost, that's what it's training us for, in that sense of like life is always changing and always maneuvering. And I think us recreating our stories often is helpful. Every time I come out of a seizure, it's an opportunity to recreate a story, to recreate myself, to say, who do I want to be and what's my why? And over time of having seizures nowadays, when I come out, all that stuff is the same. I've done it and refined it enough daily that now, yeah, every time I come out, I think about somebody that's having their first seizure. I don't count how many seizures I have. Um, and I don't, it's just never seemed like a thing I should be doing. Even though like every doctor everywhere tells you, and everyone tells you to time them, and it's just a more fuller experience for me. And it becomes this teacher in a sense of like, what can I do inside of this storm to be able to make it easier for the first person, or for the person who's first experiencing this, to have that mindset of like, somebody is scared to death because they never had this before, and they're going into it. What can I do on my end to be able to say, these things help me, these things can change the game? And a matter of years turned into a matter of moments for someone else, because when we progress somebody else who's just learning and we get them ahead further, then all of a sudden they're teaching us cool stuff. It's like having that leeway of knowing that, yeah, you have the master and you have the student within, and you can share, and we can be able to say, hey, this has been working for me. Why don't we try something like this or that? And there's so many different options and outlets that right now you only have people that's really in that field of wanting to change, or all the researchers. Yeah, maybe some of them have had experience with it, but a lot of them are just people interested in the science field. Oh, okay, epilepsy, that seems interesting. And they're just studying it. They don't have that impact of like seeing it in front of them and having it as a thing, and like almost this
Yeah,
like,
we're actually like walking through it and living through it. And as you
yeah.
say this, it's like connecting with change and being able, a lot of people can't accept it. So they don't
Mhm.
change. They fight it and they fight it. So connecting, accepting, and networking. I'm always coming up with acronyms, but the
Mhm.
can connecting with it, accepting it, and then how about networking like we're doing now? Finding other
Yep.
epileptics to talk about help. But if people say, oh, I hate when this happens, I don't want this to happen, I want to get my license again, I want to get this again, it causes depression, it causes anxiety. There's people I've talked to that just can't get over it, even though maybe they're over it. They have a medication that
Mhm.
works, they haven't had a seizure in 6 months, a year, but they're still depressed because they lost 3 years, 5 years,
Mhm.
7 years. And then that means epilepsy is still winning and you haven't changed, right?
Yeah, and it's really digging deeper into that recreation mode. It's like, you the only reason you ever feel bad that you lost any amount of time is just people that have persuaded you that you can lose time. Like, you there's such perfect timing in this world that you can't mess it up. It's impossible. And it may seem like you can, but it's all about how your energy is coming out of it, of like, what can you do with it? You're only wasting time if you sit there and thought you waste time. Like, there's so many people that have been in prison most of their lives. There's people that have been, just stuck and abused and can't go anywhere for half of their entire life. Like, there's a level of not being able to, 3 years in a sense is nothing to somebody else. Like, it's all just different perspectives and changing it. I mean, look at Nelson Mandela. He's one of the most important people the planet's ever had, and he was in prison most of his life.
Yeah, that's crazy. Years and years, and the
Yeah.
story is amazing. He gets out and he's just all positive.
Yeah, and the things he did while he was still in there, the things we can do while we're still inside of the storm, of what we can take the lessons and knowledge from the terrible things that have happened and build incredible things with it. No great piece of art has ever been made without turmoil and pain and all these other, lower aspect feelings that we think is life, but those are the things that make life life. if you learn how to use them correctly. Not really correctly, but use them with your heart, use them
Use
with
them in a
actual
way
passion.
like he did, because
Hmm.
yeah, he was in jail. And also Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, was a huge book for me to read. And he was in the Nazi concentration camp for years and years. And it's the same thing. The prison for him was outside, and it
Hmm.
wasn't inside. He made the best of it. It took years for him to get to that, but he wasn't. It's the prison that we're in, especially with epilepsy, right? People get in their
Hmm.
own prison. It's a great song by Creed, by the way. I live a lot my own prison. And that's that, meaning like you have your own prison inside your head. You're stuck. You can't get out. And but
Hmm.
that's a choice, right?
Yeah, and it's tough too because there's layers that can just be repeat on itself to where you're in so much hate and doubt that you can hear all the goodness in the world and it just reflects off of you. There's nothing there. So I think that's why life adds this extra heat and adds this extra thing to shake you awake to say, hey, if you don't want this, then there's the door. If you want this, here is infinity amount of things that you could do with it. One of my friends always told me when I was younger, he says, if you're at the point to where you don't want to live anymore, that means the world is your oyster. If you were to be gone tomorrow, and if you had one day left to do whatever you wanted to do, then that day would usually, that person experiencing their full passion in their heart, usually the day would pass by and they don't want to go anymore because they learned what it is to actually live and to be connected and to be, you know, internally feeling worthy enough. I think that's one that really hits really hard when
From
you,
survive to thrive.
yeah, you come out of the seizure and you're just like, the amount of worthy inside of you is like so low because you're like, wow, I'm a pain in the ass for people around me. I'm a pain for my community. But it's not true because you don't actually really understand what's happening in this exchange. There's so much energy and dynamics moving inside of your body and your mind and your soul that I think it's something that we fully don't quite understand yet. And I don't believe that it's useless at all. I think it's one of the most useful things that a human being can experience. Why? I'm not totally sure yet. But every single time I have one, that's the thing that keeps coming back to me of like, for some reason or another, this is a useful experience to have, to be able to do something with. And it's, and it bugs the hell out of me, but it doesn't go away. And it's this sense in your heart and it's this sense in your mind that we can do things for millions of other people, even if we don't even fully understand what it is. We can do something that can change the game forever just by mistakenly finding it. How many times have somebody created something amazing by mistake? Yeah. And I think this is just like a path that it's very raw, it's very real, and it makes me look for the truth. It makes me have really strong bonds and relationships. It makes me really want to look internally deeper and how to transform being a better person and utilizing the energy for a better result. So, and this is all epilepsy. This
Yeah.
isn't just like, I could have decided the complete opposite, come out of a seizure and just blah, the same thing again. And my life wouldn't be anywhere near what it is now. And
That's why I
the,
think you're still having these, because you're out here to help people too. And these areas of experience that I went through for 25 years, and it just slowly went away. And I don't have. This is the thing we're coming together for, is to be able to put a program together to help people too. And that's
Mhm.
why, in wrapping this up too, but these are great stories for people to pay attention to be aware of, and especially with epilepsy, every time it happens, you're positive, right? You're the like in charge still. And I like how you said it earlier too. I have that word of control alt delete, because
Mhm.
you wake up and you're just feeling like, where am I? Who am I? What am I? But the first thing in your mind is positivity. Okay, I have to
Mhm.
be grateful for this. You can't even sometimes remember your name. I remember that, where you're at, what's going on, what happened. But you
Yeah.
have positivity in your mind. And that's the best thing, that moving forward and helping others. Maybe tell us a little bit about your contact information and what your plans are too for helping others?
Yeah. Well, as some of you, as you know, I'm just moving into a new house and a new life, and I'm getting planted out here in Asheville, North Carolina. Right now, the main hub spot, the main platform you can find me on is Instagram. We of the storm, with all little underscores under the words. We'll put links and stuff like that, so it's easy to find. But right now, I am designing one solid landing page coming very, very soon, and where you can see multiple mentors and lots of things going on. There's a lot of stuff happening on the back end right now in the epilepsy community, as well as a shout out to one of my good friends, Nicholas Siegel, and the Radio Cave Foundation. He's been putting together marketplaces for epileptic artists. We were just on a meeting last night and connecting with another good friend of ours. I'm trying to remember her last name, Tanya Heathco. Heathco. I don't know which way I'm pronouncing that, but she is another really awesome and just powerful being. She lost her daughter from SUDEP, and she as well has epilepsy. And just the amount of things that she's had to come over. So there's just so many dynamics right now. So it's kind of exciting that the we of the storm is actually starting to become a we of the storm and having lots of different people inside of this. So we want to make a very simple and easy spots where everyone can start to see all this and go into their different channels of where they relate to the most. That's one main thing we really want to create. Your age, your gender, your things that are more personal and have that relatable thing with epilepsy. Like, I don't know what it's like to be a woman with epilepsy. I couldn't train someone that even if I wanted to, but I know someone who does now. And so it's like creating this network that's very solid, that no matter who we're meeting, no matter who we need to help, we have an area for that. So right now, stay tuned on Instagram. We're going to get YouTube fired up here pretty soon, just in about another month or so, of putting all this stuff together and making it simple for everyone to find. But yeah, I really appreciate always talking to you and making these things happen.
Yeah, Mitch, we're putting it together. We'll have the links for your information down below. Also on epilepsycoaching.com, you can go on there. I'm going to be speaking to schools the next 2 days as well. This is like wonderful where we can both do this. I'm sure soon to be able to connect to hear both of our stories. And it's a friend of mine here in Temecula in the Southern California area that is principal of school, and Al Williams is connected with me, and he's going to put me on these classes tomorrow, 4 classes tomorrow, 4 classes Friday, talking about not just the story or the experience, and especially mine with alcohol, but overcoming it and how to stay healthy, how to focus on health, nutrition, how to overcome these obstacles within. A lot of it in high school is peer pressure, a lot of the COVID stuff going on, isolation, it's meditation. I'm talking about more and more, just things that come together every day for us, right?
Yeah. The maintenance part.
Yeah.
To maintain this energy, that's the main point. You always gotta deliver to yourself. It never just sticks. It's never something that's just like, oh, I'm here now. There's always another level to climb. There's always somewhere else to go. And it's just keeping that maintain that energy.
To yourself, for yourself, by yourself, with yourself. How's that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Coming up. And then I'm up here in Reno visiting my parents. It's actually my birthday today. So I got all this great stuff going on. That's why I wanted to connect with you today and just relive it, because every day, every year is another year. And then as I'm in my mom's car, I'm using her car this morning, running errands. I see this sticker that I put on here that I gave her about 5 years ago, and it's related to what you're talking about. This is on her horn, if you can see that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, turn the impatient to I'm patient, the imbalance to I'm balanced, the impossible to I'm possible, the impractical to I'm practical. And because she actually, not to go too far in the story, but it's a funny story. She got a ticket for honking the horn too much about 6-7 years ago for excessive use of horn in a construction zone. She was like, eh. So she got a ticket for that. And I go, Mom, you got to just breathe. And what are you talking about? So I said, oh, here's the sticker. And put it on there, and it always reminds her. You know, we have to have
There you
these
go.
reminders in life. Just
Yep.
breathe. Remember, turn
Yep.
the F U's to thank yous too. So
Yeah, totally. And then be there and to actually, you know, sometimes we need our own reminders. A lot of the time. That's why it's good to have this network and have these friends to say like, hey man, you know, like I noticed you're down, like you're not like that. And to be able to empower each other again, and how useful that is, you know, like you could be down for weeks and months, but you just have that right person or somebody else come up and tell you one thing and it gets you going again. Like that's what we are for each other. And being
Exactly.
able to create more than just these little support groups that like just go through it, but something that's a little more, you know, like taking the support and turning into transformation, turning into something that like who we really want to be and how we really want to show up on this planet, regardless of what we're dealing with on our internal, but making those things the things that make us shine rather than things that we think puts us away and hides us away from society. You know, and you look at what managed society is happening right now, that they have no idea what's going on. Everything is just history in a ridiculous state right now. So just remember, take advice from yourself, take advice from deeper parts of yourself before you take advice from this external thing that's going on. And like there's so many people that think they know what's happening, but just remember that no one knows. We all have no idea what's happening, and that's okay. And you can really go into your own personal thing and know what's happening, at least with this. And then taking this and then activating it so you can help the world. And, you know, everything that you need is inside of you. It's all packed in there. And
it is.
the more you start to explore that, no matter what it is, if you want to dive in and explore, you know, like what does my birthday mean? What human design am I? What, you know, what's my astrology? Even if you believe in it or not, just look into yourself. Just explore yourself and see it kind of outside of you. That way you can have more appreciation of it and start to step into your mastery and using it to help everyone else and yourself. So
That's great.
that's my message for
Yeah,
today.
I'm sticking to it. Yeah, that's what we do. Yeah, Mitch will have his contact information on here, mine as well. Thanks, appreciate it once again, and we'll be connecting soon. Anybody have questions, please subscribe, like, and share on here, and leave the comments on questions too, and we'll grow from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Have a great day. Happy birthday and take care,
All right, appreciate
everyone.
it.
Yeah. Please contact us, hit us up, let us know how you're doing out there and how we can help. We appreciate it.
Sounds good. Take care,
Awesome,
everyone.
brother.